Welcome back to Fast Market on the TD Ameritrade Network. I'm Tom White, joined by my co-host for the day, Joe Mazzola. But let's bring in our next guest for our cash tag segment. That's going to be Megan Brantley, the Vice President of Research at LikeFolio. Thanks for being here, Megan.
Thanks for having me, guys. Happy Friday.
Yeah, happy Friday. Perfect timing to discuss Lululemon. They just updated their 5-year plan. They want to double their revenue above $12 billion for this company. What kind of data are you guys seeing out of LikeFolio? Because the stock's rebounded pretty significantly over the last month and a half after hitting basically 3-year lows, but still down about 5% so far this year. What kind of data do you guys have here today on Lulu?
Yeah, so I think that we talked a couple weeks ago about how we were starting to see some momentum for Lulu, especially driven by this new line of running shoes that they launched. And that's just one example, but that's something that caught our eye to kind of take a look at this company. And what we see on, the macro scale for Lulu is that overall demand has actually risen by about 12% year over year. And I know that for us, we had previously in the last couple of months seen some weakening in demand. And so now we're starting to see that rebound. And you can see that in the green line on the chart there that mentions are rising on a quarter over quarter and year over year basis. And it's driven by a couple of things. One thing that we see is that consumers are returning to the gym again, and they're returning to these group fitness classes. So, whenever you're taking a group fitness class, you want to look your best. So we see a lot of mentions from consumers who are kind of refreshing that wardrobe, if you will. And then we also see them doing really well on the digital front as well as the store front. So it's interesting to see both of those models performing higher on a year-over-year basis for us. That tells us that Lulu, there's some digital stickiness there moving forward. And then lastly, we also see growth in their menswear. I know that this is an item that they highlighted that they wanted to continue to grow moving ahead, but from our data perspective, we see those Lulu menswear purchase intent mentions up by about 29% year over year. So I think that Lulu is definitely in our data, it's getting some positive momentum, but we are concerned just long term to see, we're starting to see signs from the consumer that they're getting stressed. We're seeing signs of consumers talking about trying to be more frugal. We're seeing signs from consumers who are talking about maxing out credit cards. So, as this stress mounts, it will be interesting to see if Lulu can continue to, maintain this momentum that we've recorded in the past couple of months.
Yeah, Megan, that brings up a good point, because one of the things that I've always tried to kind of wrap my head around with that Lulu brand is, how price sensitive are its consumers, right? I mean, Are they at an area where, hey, if inflation goes up, they're a little bit more insulated from that, or what are you seeing here?
I think that Lulu is definitely just at that higher price point, it is a little bit more insulated from somewhat of the pricing pressures that we see from some consumers. However, another good indicator for us that we like to look at long term is consumer happiness. And Lululemon has really high levels of consumer happiness, and those have remained extremely consistent. I think they might have fluctuated by a point or two over the last couple of years, but almost near 80% positive. I think around 75% positive. And so for us in our universe, that's pretty high, especially for a company that's selling, $100 leggings, right? So I think that this is a really important indicator that we'll be watching moving forward to see if happiness starts to slide, or, if people start to make comments like, oh, I can't afford to splurge on another pair of Lulus. So far in our data, that hasn't happened yet, but it's definitely something that we'll be watching for.
Yeah, Megan, and that one chart that you guys had, we finally get to talk Lululemon, and we're talking the men's side of this today, which is typically not what we hit on when we talk Lululemon. And thank goodness Kevin's not here today, because Kevin doesn't know anything about Lulu stuff, but he discusses the stock. But when you look at the menswear side of it, this is one that's been declining, but then they're going to come out with some new stuff, whether it's a new men's shoe, even in the golf realm, which golf has really picked back up over the last couple years. Is that a growth area for them? Because it seems like this Mirror investment that they did for $453 million has been a drag on them. And then finally, after that, how has the women's shoe done after the first month after it came out?
Yeah. So I think that, I did bring this chart specifically for you guys, so we could talk about this menswear division. because I do think that, expansion in areas like golf and things like that could really expand Lulu's audience. I know that just anecdotally, all of the men in my family love Christmas time because they know that that's when I'm going to buy them Lululemon items. And they love the items and they rave about the items. Even my father, who I never thought would be a Lululemon fan. So I think that, that attests to Lulu's high quality nature. And so expansion into things like golf is definitely something positive to watch moving forward. From a mirror perspective, I think you hit the nail on the head. That was kind of a flub. Whenever we look at those purchase intent mentions of mirror, they're down significantly, way down from the purchase intent mentions that we were recording prior to their acquisition. And I think it's interesting, one thing that they're doing is they launched this membership model, or they're testing out this membership model. And part of the perk to have that, I think it's like $39 a month, is you have to have a mirror to be able to take those classes. And so I think that's going to be a tough sell, at least according to our happiness data. So maybe that one is something to watch that we're not as optimistic about, but we definitely do think that the menswear, there's room for expansion in that segment.
And finally, has the traction picked up? Because Jenny Horn here at the network, she got the shoes. She doesn't mind them, but she's not wearing them, to go for her runs. Are you guys seeing any positive traction or mentions for the women's shoe?
So we definitely saw those mentions pop right around the time they were launched. We saw a lot of sold out mentions. The consumer happiness for the shoe is very positive, but there is some tempering in demand. And so this is something I think to watch long term, just because, let's see, is this demand tempering because people can't get a hold of the shoe, so they physically can't buy them? Or is it because they're maybe not impressed with the shoe? So far, the mentions do seem very positive, but it's definitely something to watch moving forward, just to see, okay, as more shoes are restocked and hit the shelves, are consumers continuing to buy? Are they going to buy that second pair? To that, we'll have to see.
Now, are you guys, I know earnings aren't for about a month and a half. Are you guys positive or negative as far as sentiment goes, as far as if there was an earnings event?
Yeah. So if there was an earnings event right now, our score would be cautiously bullish. Lulu's coming in around 33. It is higher, just to give comparison, than that of Nike and that of Under Armour. So we do see Lulu overperforming in the space, but we're not, pounding the tables just quite yet.
Got it. Slightly positive. And I'll go back to Lulu if they get some golf stuff out there for men, but I've moved away into other brands that are competing with them now, but we'll have to wait and see on that. All right, Megan, great stuff. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, guys. You too.
That's Megan Brantley, the Vice President of Research at LikeFolio, joining us, giving us the data. Now